And I want to show how sparkly and how to set traditionally these gorgeous, gorgeous illuminating rose cut gems. This one is lemon quartz. And this one actually is all about your power chakra. So the yellows are for bringing in your power and strength, letting you stand in your power. I'm going to be wearing this ring to Tucson when I finish it because, you know, it's like I'm kind of getting back to all my people again, all my things that I have going on there that I haven't been for a while. So, you know, I'm really wanting to make sure that I have my power and strength with me as a jeweler, as a person, as who I am. So I'm really excited about getting this done. You're going to see it on my hand at Tucson. Hey guys, I just wanted to show you how, you know, if I need a nice flat surface on one of my old fire bricks, you know, I actually just started, I kind of got started and I was like, oh, I'm just going to show these guys. You just take your sandpaper, it doesn't matter the grit, and you're just going to put it on its side just to get a nice, clean, flat surface. I'm just going to keep going with it. It's powdery. I probably want to wear a mask. Anything airborne in your studio isn't good for you, but I wanted to show you guys this, and pretty soon it'll be nice and flat and flush. This is going to be good for me because I do videos online, and it is a really nice way to, you know, get to have a clean surface for your videos, to have a nice flat surface. You're going to see why I need a flat surface for this project. Hey guys, here's another tip too. I actually need a nice flat screen. These small screens are so fabulous. I love them so much. But when you are working with them, you get holes in them. They get full of flux and solders and all kinds of stuff like that. So this is what I do to straighten them out. I need a nice straight screen today. So I just kind of envelope it inside of my work cloths that, you know, I mean, this might get a little bit torn up, but that's what they're here for. They're kind of the next step before a throwaway. This is going to get a lot of the things that are soaking on here off, or things that are stuck between the screen, you know, anything like that. And it's gonna give me a nice flat surface. I wanna make sure this stays flat. Not gonna damage my anvil. And then, voila, look at all the fire scale and everything that came off of there. It's nice and flat, so I'll be ready to go. Alrighty, here we go. You can see here, this is what I'm soldering together, but I actually put 2 screens on top of this nice sanded area. I need the screens because I need to get up under this piece to solder it. So I've got 2 nice straight pieces. This one's a filigree. Why am I doing these? Because, oops, I think you guys know this is gonna be the gem that I'm working with, showing you rose cut gems. So I'm super excited. I love this lemon quartz with the strength and power that it has with it. You know, and I want to show you guys, of course, the rose cut. How do you set a rose cut gem in a traditional bezel, not just using prong? And oh my gosh, it can be so beautiful. So I'm gonna put this over on the side to be nice and safe and not have any worries. And now I'm gonna build the bezel for it. It comes up pretty high, so I have to do this technique of soldering 2 bezels together and using my T-pins. So here's my T-pins, and I'm gonna get these. If you guys, I just show like a general, you know, pretty general. I'm gonna go inside these holes since I have some. I show pretty general, and you know, if you guys want the full clip for this, you can go back into your Bezels Expanded and you'll find it there too. So, okay. Just gonna do a couple. Usually I don't put any on this side, but get these put in. Nice and careful. I decided to do things nice and slow and let people relax and get their, so I just wanna make sure that this is sitting flat. You guys know I have some nice flat screens now. And how does this match up? If you were having trouble with one end of it, you know, and something else you could do is on the far end of it, you can put something like this, just to help you get this to stay straight and stay straight. See, I mean, it's a heat sink, but you know, it'll do something for you. You know, if I need this all the way down, I can drill a hole in here or just lean my pin forward, you know, if I'm looking to really get this other side pinched in pretty closely. All these little details on, I think, a fun subject. Let's see. See, like I could actually punch this pin. I'm showing all the tips today. Down through this soft block, and look at how I have it sitting in here. It really is securing this down, actually. Maybe I'll do it here too. It's gonna have, some of them don't go down, but they have an obstacle in the way. Let's see if I can get this one down. Just have to use your strength. This is where you get your workouts in, right guys? Let's see. I'm glad I got that one down easy enough. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to keep 2 of them here down. This is also what these T-pins are so good at. Oh my gosh. So I have a nice surface here. When I get to this end, I'm going to have to push it forward a little. Maybe I'll do one more right here where I can push it forward. So I don't have to get from one end to the other. Actually, if I can get most of this down, it makes it easier to get this final piece on. There we go. See, we've got some good matches here. So let me get this end down. I just want to make sure this is pushed in. So it'll be easier to push it in. Let's get this piece out. Always these nice little studio tips, right guys? Pretty soon your board will have, you know, some really nice holes in there, and you can use them again and again, right? Okay, so I actually am back in my studio after a little, so I don't really have my spritzer, but you guys could spritz or just coat everything. There's still a little section in between, but once I get my solder down, I'm gonna start with areas where I can see my solder is you know, where my 2 pieces are joining, and then maybe with my pick, I might have to pull it together. It actually, I mean, I could put a pin here. Sometimes it's troublesome to put a pin on this side. You guys just have to play with this idea. There's no way to push in if you could have a pin on both sides. So I kind of like this. I'm looking at it, it looks good. You guys can see it from all angles. I'm gonna come at it from this angle. So you guys know a lot of times I talk about it's all in the angle of your, it's all in the angle. So, you know, this one actually is a lot thicker and this is a lot thinner. This is my bezel wire that's made of fine silver. So I have to probably put, 60%, 65% of my heat on this bezel wire and then maybe 35% on this fine part right here. So let me get my torch started. Haven't started my torch yet today. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna dry this up. This end down here is nice and tight. You guys will just get to see. I'm not even gonna talk. I'm just gonna get this soldered and flowing and a little bit more solder put on, or a little bit more flux right in the area where I need it. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna do a medium. I want to make sure these stay right up against the edge. Don't hop around. There's no reason. This will be the inside or the back, as you can see. So this is the part that's touching the stone. It's a part that's touching the stone. Okay. Now this, you guys can see, it has a big heat sink over here. So I probably won't be able to get that really flowing, but I've got a good amount of solder on here. Don't know if I'll be able to get it flowing, but I can always when I come in the second time. So let me grab my pick. Here it is, so easy to misplace. I'm always like, oh my gosh. I got actually a couple of these picks just so I'd have them. they can just go on their side and they're gone, you know? So pretty interesting. Okay, I'm gonna make sure these get over. I don't want anything on the rim of my bezel wire because that is something that could be visible. And remember guys, I'm always liking if I can get under here and get this nice and hot. Put this on the side, I probably don't need that. If I can get this nice and hot under, I'm always in better shape. Work with under, so the screen, anytime I can heat up that screen nice and hot, it's just gonna help me with the flow of my solder. Okay. You can see I love the rotating, but when I solder, I've actually got my elbow on here, and I'm gonna keep it from rotating. I really don't want it to rotate. I'm gonna get it nice and hot at this end. You can see where I'm starting. I don't want it too hot, but see that steel is getting nice and hot. There we go, it's starting to flow, just from the top, from under. But you can see I'm really avoiding the, there's a piece that's out of place, grab it. I'm really avoiding that filigree because it's very delicate. I'm coming up and above, you always wanna come up and above it. And if I have to, I can push it with my, just get it nice and smooth. Push it out, push it out. I want this under to also hit under. You can see a little bit right there. I got a little bit onto my bezel wire, so that means this side is not quite heated up enough, and I may have to push this in a little bit. If I do have to touch the top, you want to make sure that your pick is nice and quenched. I just put it in my Flux, so I have also the double factor of having a little bit of Flux on here too. There we go. This one is a little bit too much to the side, so that means I have to bring it back in this way. Get it on here. There we go, see that? Just press it down, you get your solder to flow exactly where you want it to flow. Get it quenched. I've got to push this in over here. See how that little bit of push in really helps you out? I like this because I think you guys can see good. It's hot, but I have that heat sink there. Remember, I'm doing a lot of my heat on this bezel side, which is sterling silver, so. Sterling silver. It has a heat sink. It's just gonna take a little bit longer, but I'm gonna keep my fire nice and calm. I wanna bring some of this solder down here to this piece. I can always go back in and pull. It's like, looks like over here I need some solder to flow. So I'm gonna take this solder right here and bring it down. See that? I can bring this all the way down to cover. And I'm in good shape. Get it hot here and it's gonna flow. There we go. See that? Okay, so I think I'll probably fix this area. Let me see if I can get under here and bring this down. I don't want this clumpy anyway. It's getting a little rough because I'm getting close to this big file. But remember, now it's gonna be time. I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna flip it and I'll finish that side. So I'll show you guys that. Okay, I actually took the file off. It wasn't that hot. It was sitting right here. I'm just gonna show you guys on air so you can see how everything's gonna go. At this point, let me make sure this all gets fluxed up really nicely. I've got some solder there. I don't really have to move anything. This is staying together really nicely. I may have to take it apart and make sure that, you know, underneath these steel pieces that it's all covered. So, okay, I'm gonna get my medium on here. Got a little clumps right there too. Should be more than enough. Okay, there we go. Get it going. I think you guys can see this. It's pretty close to you. It's kind of a nice twist, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this solder to flow. Because of this file, it's really put in here very, very nicely. And then I'll remove the T-pins and I'll see where I'm at, and I can make sure that my solder is flowing beautifully through the whole piece. Okay, there we go. Now, actually, I'm gonna start this way because it's easiest to bring it closer in this way, like this. See that? I'm getting a nice seam. This is why I love the, this is why I love when I have the turntable. Get that under. If I can pull this under, I'll just get it to brush through right here. Or I can just come through a little bit later. This might be an area too where I have to push it in. There we go. I might have to push that in a little bit, right under that steel. But I don't want this, steel pin to burn my piece. So I can always just turn it a little bit. Or, you know, I've got my ends really good. I think I'm gonna take it out and work with a couple pieces in here, and I'll show you guys how I do that. Get my pliers. You'd be surprised, sometimes it's not even hot. The screen. Sometimes the screen isn't even hot, but sometimes a lot of pieces are, so. Okay, there we go. Go. My T-pins get a lot of use. You can see there was one over here that broke off. So let me see right here. It's kind of stuck on the inside. Sometimes that happens. I just finished getting it off as the last pin. There we go. Okay, you guys, this is looking pretty, but I'm actually gonna scrub this up and pickle it and then go back in and do a couple repairs where I see the areas are open. Going in for this last round, I'm gonna even put a little bit of, once I get this going, this is right where the screen was in the center. When I'm doing an unusual project like this, I really don't worry about how many times I'm going into this. My bezel is going to, you know, go a long way. I could have done it shorter, I could have done it exactly. A lot of times I really like to leave a little bit of extra on there. Okay, I finished my beautiful piece. There's a little bit of solder on here, but that's okay. It's gonna be on the inside. So I actually the next thing I wanna do is start with one of the ends and cut it really, really flush. And then I'm gonna sit it right on the edge of my, get a nice file here. Ooh, this one looks like a good one. Exactly, this is a pretty fine one. So I'm just gonna get this right on the edge with a straight line. You know, you really, when you start working with these big dimensions, you wanna make sure that your edges are nice and straight because you've got a lot of room here to work with. Let me actually put this over here now. Look, remember when I talked about how happy I was to have this beautiful surface? Isn't this nice? You can see my stone, you can see the silver. That always makes me happy. Okay, so when you're moving this around, I have my rose cut gem flipped upside down. And when I'm moving this around, I just want to move it very gently. I want to really do a nice fit. Let me get my pliers that I need, and just, these are nice thick curves, needle nose, and I'm just gonna really get this fit into, I have it curved over a little too much. Well, sometimes that happens, right? Okay, there we go. Nice curve. This is annealed because I pretty much have been, I know my hands are in the way, but you guys know it's just hard to get to pieces like this. So let's see. And then you guys know I'm trying to get this where you guys could pretty much look down inside here just like me, right? So I've got this curved around. I want to look over the top. I'm going to close it. You don't want to have extra room in here because, you know, and you also want to make sure that your stone is sitting nice and flush in here. Okay. I think I've got all of that accomplished. And what I really want to do, I'm going to look from this end first, and I see here is right where my piece joins up, right here. So I'm going to grab it at the top, bring it down. This should be an exact fit right here. So get out my snips, and I'm just going to get this nice and filed up. Go. Look at how much extra I have. I can do a whole other piece. So this is exciting. Okay, so now that I'm going to have to get in here, flatten this, file it, and I should be in good shape to get this shaped around my bezel. And I know you guys know all the, let me move this over a little bit so you guys can see. I'm just getting back in here again with my file, nice and flat. Give me a super flush area. File away from me. That area is done. Because you really want a beautiful, beautiful join. Okay. Okay, what I do is I just get in here. You know, you're working with material that's not fine silver. It's sterling silver, it's fine silver on the end, so you just have to find different ways to work with your piece. This should be this should be actually annealed, not work hardened. So really, you guys remember at this point, I just need to get this in here nice and tight. Get back my bezel, or get back this board, so you guys have a nice background there. Always nice when you've got a good background and you can see my work. Okay. So let me get my, you know what pliers I need? Pliers like these. Doesn't matter what my shape is at this point, as long as it matches up. So it's just this little bit of work to get it to match up. And you just keep going at it. Almost there. Almost. There we go. Okay, so once you get it to match up, I just hit it in this way. Whoops. Going to snap easier, but I just, you know, really get in here and work with the big bezel here too. In alchemy, you know, I always show you guys, there we go. I always show you guys small or I always show medium. It's the smalls and the larges that are going to be a little bit of work. So I'm going to go ahead and get this soldered right here. If you guys want to watch me, you're welcome to it. And then I know you guys know how to set the bezel, but let me get some of these pliers removed. Get my paintbrush out. This is going to be pretty tough to put it this way, but I will try. I'll go on the inside. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is just coat this whole area here. Beautiful, looks like a beautiful matchup. And then I'm going to pull out some, I'm just going to pull out medium again, because remember, I did the double area well, I'm gonna do a hard. I think I can get in here. I'm gonna do medium. Remember I was telling you it's like almost a hard at this top part here. And I'll be able to get this as a hard also. You know, when you're using this kind of complexity, it'll be a little bit easier. Okay. Okay, there we go. Oops. Keep forgetting. I'm gonna try to work on the inside so you guys could see this. And I'm actually just gonna pick solder. So I need to get my pick nice and hot. You guys can all see this. I know it's all light colors. Grab me some medium, a nice little ball of medium. Oh, I'll work it on, I better work it on the outside. I just can't see it, guys. But you guys can. You kind of want to make sure the whole inside is done, because then, sorry guys, I have to do it to the side to be able to see this. That's the hard part, right? About when you're demoing. There we go. I think we all can see it good now. I've got a big chunk, and I'm going to stay low. Actually, you know what I might do? Is just push my whole piece right over to where my soldering piece is. Wouldn't that be nice and easy and smart? So you can see it did not, you know, it didn't pop open at all, so that's a good thing. Get out my pick. It is a big piece of solder, but with this I can hit it on the inside. It could take a lot of heat and hit it on the outside, and it should be able to pop right through here very soon. I don't need to put any attention on the, there we go. Now let's get it through on the top of the bezel, because that's a fine silver, and you can see there's not an area up top that needs to be soldered. It looks really good. You know, the leaves don't have to touch right there. So you can see the solder on here. I'm gonna get this filed off and sanded, but it's beautiful. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this set. I'm gonna show you guys now how to set a rose cut gem. Got my bezel back, nice and clean and set up. And I've just been maneuvering it around to fit my gem in here beautiful. You wanna be very careful with, you know, manhandling your gem, and you wanna make sure it doesn't get hurt. But you guys can see on the underside is the rose cut, which is all the point that comes to it. And this is a lemon quartz, and you know, you really want to make sure this is a sterling silver. So I've been over here. What I do is I turn it upside down, put my piece in here, and I really make sure that my bezel is shaped the right way, that my piece can sit nice and flush in here. You want to make sure that it does sit flush, because if it's sideways at all, it's going to look bad. You know, if your bezel is too small, your piece is going to sit sideways. If it's too big, it's going to, you know, just slip right inside there. So you can see this is exactly the place that you want it to be in. I'm going to show you how I build it up and get this set later, but you can see I've got my bezel set the right way. So you just really want to keep working your piece to make sure that it's set up right and even, and it's gonna work out well. Okay, I'm gonna put my gem to the side so it doesn't get damaged at all, and I could find it again. And my next step will be soldering down my bezel base. So I'm showing you guys up here because it's a close-up. I actually, you know, before I even started setting it, I wanna get in and really make sure that this is flush. So I just get out my sandpaper that has a lot of sanding on here to make sure I can see it all the way around. And I just keep it circulated like this. Where the seam is, maybe I put a little pressure on there just to make sure. There might be a little bit of where the ends don't match up, right where your seam is. Okay. I got this ring on. My goodness. So this one is nice and flush, and I can see it on here. Ah, looks so good. Very, very good. You guys, I'll let you see it from all angles. Voila. See? That's nice. Okay. So let me get my spritz. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna set up, but I do know this is a ring. I might, most likely will get something attached to the top and around to the sides, but I'm gonna decide that later, and that is all just kind of, you know, going to be what you prefer. So let me get this going. Dry this up a little. You always want it a little dry. Love these little spinning cabinets here, guys. So, I have my solder on the inside. I put a medium solder on the inside. I'm gonna put this on the end so I can get in here and get this soldered up. So let me get that going on. Got a big piece here, so I wanna turn my heat up pretty much. Okay. Love my spinner. I'm making sure all my solder's touching the edges. Okay. Okay. I can get inside here a little bit. You know, I always kind of like to get up and under, but really what I'm doing is getting up and under, heating my screen, getting my screen nice and hot as I possibly can to get this all flowing, to get it heated evenly. When I pop out my pick, I'm gonna quench it in my Flux just because I don't want it hot. You don't want your pick too hot, although see, I am using it to lift in here, so. I love that, you know, when you get to the inside of this, you can really get some nice heat going on the inside of your piece, which is pretty cool. I'll eventually get there. I've got a big bezel. There we go. I see it starting to go. So let me get in here. See it starting to go. There we go. It's so pretty. You love when that solder flows, don't you? You learn to love it. Come in from a different angle. I still see a lot of solder in there, but I usually like to put in extra solder because I am always putting trim on the outside of my bezel. It just makes it pretty. You know, it fills it out, makes it look good, and maybe pretty isn't the word, but definitely fills it out. There we go, nice and soldered. I'm gonna get this pickled and do the next layer. I'll show you guys this kind of cool setting that I did for my ring. I think you guys are gonna like it. Well, you know, who doesn't like? So here's what the back side looks like. I decided to do an open end. This is just a little extra, not about the project, but that looks cool, huh? If you guys can see it. That's great. I'll show it to you when it's all done. I'll do a video of it, but it's gonna look nice. You can see this allows me the most amount of light through for my rose cut gem. Makes sense? You guys know, you know, this is for the rose cut gem. I wanted to show you the back of this because I want as much light to flow through as possible. So I did an open end, you know, just an open end. This is just a little tip and just a little extra, so don't worry if you can't see it. This is just a little extra to show you guys. Mostly it's about this, you know, setting the rose cut gem, but you can see they're each gonna be sitting, every place I have marker is where I'm putting solder, and these will just sit and suspend right here beautifully. And like I said, this is just a little extra, but I thought you guys would like this part of it too. I'll take a video in the end. Hey there. Almost getting there. I decided to add, you know, my own stuff in here. So it's getting to be bigger and bigger, but I will be showing you these rows cut in just a minute, but my design's almost done. Okay, you guys, I have my piece finished and I have liver of sulfur on there. I always love the back of my rings. They're kind of a little bit with layers, you know, and for me, since I love all that riveting, I am really excited when the back looks like that. This is what I was talking about. You can see that because of the way I did my ring band, there is a straight on space down the center. I didn't have to run my ring band down there. So I'm really excited. Now, how do I raise this so everything sits beautifully and my stone sits beautifully? I actually use, this is para wire. This is a 16 gauge. It's a copper with sterling silver on the outside. I've had this for quite some time. Actually, it's a 14 gauge. I'm sorry. So what I do is I make sure that I have a really good cut, nice flush cut right here. And I'm just gonna start shaping it to the shape of my bezel. It doesn't, you know, it really doesn't have to be that exact, but what I'm really trying to do is build up. Somehow I ended up getting pretty good, and as soon as I say that, then I end up messing up, but I end up getting pretty good at, you know, just eyeballing what sizes I need. And I made sure that I put a flush cut on this side too. What really is important is to have your piece, you know, right where it ends here, where I've got this seam, you really want to make sure that it's flush. You don't want one piece higher than the other, or your gem will end up sitting not very flat. You don't have to solder them, but maybe I'll just hit it a tiny tap with my hammer to work harden it. And in goes the first one. I made a couple others here, so remember, I want both of my ends flush. I want it to sit beautifully. I'm gonna tap it a little. Make sure it's nice. Ooh, I had to make sure this is nice and flat. I just made sure it sits flat in my hand. Remember, if your bezel wire, or if these rings are, you know, not flat or flush, they're going to raise your gems in different strange ways. Now, one thing I found was important is you don't want your seam to be in the same place all the time. So since I have a seam on this side, the next time I drop in, I'll have my seam, you know, in another area. So let me just make sure everything is flush on this piece. Oops, there we go. Let's see, nice and flush. And hammered down, and I think this piece is going to sit right in here. Is that one a little bit? That one's a little bit tight, but I think it's going to work. And then I've got one more. You can see how the rings are building up. They're all on the, you know, they're surrounding the inside of the ring. So I'm going to make sure my edges are flush. That's super important. And if anything, you can put the smaller pieces down first, because if you think about it, you know, we're used to going big to large, but I'm gonna flip this way to make sure all my seams are going different directions. Look at how I literally have my wire stacked all the way up to this first band right here, if you look on the inside. So you're gonna have to drop this in very gently. I might have too much, I'm not exactly sure yet. Okay, let's see, how's that on? Nope, it's a little bit, you can see this a little bit crooked, but if it is, it's perfectly fine because I can just lift it back out. I'm gonna actually bring you guys over to, I always hold my gems inside of my bench pin. So I'm gonna bring you over to my bench pin. Hang on. I know you guys have the same kind of mess over here. I'm just trying to keep it clean for you so you can see everything straight. Okay, so here's my gem. I cleaned it up. I need to be very careful with it. I am gonna clean it up when I get into the last part of it too, but I'm just gonna very gently drop it in here, nice and flush. Once I can get it in here flush, it should stay. So, you know, that's kind of the tricky part. You don't want to go in and hit it with, you don't want to go in and, you know, put a file up the back or anything like that. But it is really just getting your gem in there straight and balanced and making sure that your bezel is set right. There we go. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. It's sitting in there beautiful. Everything is nice and even. Okay, so as I set this stone, I ended up putting in 5. I raised it a little tad taller because I just want the ends. It's such a beautiful, beautiful stone that I really just want the ends of my bezel wire to fold over the top of it, you know. I really don't want to cover up my beautiful, beautiful stone. So what I do is my hands are all chapped and everything, guys, but I just kind of hold it down in the center and very gently just start bringing my bezel wire closer. It shouldn't bother my stone at all. My stone is still, you know, moving around a tiny, tiny bit. But once I get this secure, so you just want to work very, very gently. I don't have to worry yet if it's totally centered and balanced, because once I get closer to setting the stone and pulling the tabs down. Right now I am not pulling these tabs down on my piece whatsoever. Okay. Okay, I've went around twice. The third time in, I'm gonna very gently make sure this is centered. So I put down 2 on this side. I'm gonna put down 2 on this side, just so I don't, you know, so I can keep my stone in balance. 2 on that side. So I'm just working very, very gently, just pushing them down. I'm not even touching my stone at this point. I'm really just touching the silver. So that's what you want to do with these gorgeous gems. I'm not worried about getting them all the way down yet. Just really taking care of these beautiful stones. In the end is when I end up cleaning up my metal, and I'll polish up this gem again. Okay, so here's where my piece is pretty stable, and I am gonna get ready for the plastic tools. So see, this is what it looks like now. I've got a couple other stones to set in there, but this is no longer wobbly, but the tops of it are sticking out. The tops of my prong are sticking out. So now I want to get in. This actually will even help shine up your stone. This is just a plastic bezel setter that I actually got from Robert Lopez that helps just to get your ends down. Once I get this layer down, if it runs across the top of my stone, it doesn't hurt it whatsoever. And I'm gonna do a little bit more work here. Sorry, I slipped off the top a couple times, but I've got a little bit more work burnishing this down. But this is looking so pretty, isn't it, guys? So this light back here brings it all in. I wanted to show you back here. You cannot see any of the wire that I have inside there. You can just see my stone that's lifted up in the air a tiny bit. And I'm gonna work on this a little bit more, but that is the beauty